Dr. Ilara Voss stood in the heart of Kronos Labs, staring at the temporal rift, a swirling vortex of blue and silver light that defied logic and explanation. 2 weeks earlier, the rift had been but a faint shimmer of an anomaly, something her team had dismissed as a minor mathematical glitch in their time paradox research. But now, it pulsed like a beating heart, expanding and contracting, bending the very fabric of space-time. Dr. Voss called her assistant, Jonas, panic etched into his voice. The rift's size increased by 17% overnight. At this rate, it will consume the facility in less than 48 hours. Ilara's mind raced. The theory they had been testing, a way to manipulate time for instantaneous travel, was supposed to be a breakthrough for humanity. Instead, it threatened to tear apart everything she held dear. The lab was already in mass evacuation mode, but Ilara wasn't ready to abandon ship yet. Too much was at stake. "Show me the quantum stabilizer's diagnostics," she barked, rushing to the glowing interface hovering 10 inches off the ground. Jonas hesitated before tapping on the holographic controls, casting the data into the air like shimmering lines of code. "It doesn't make sense," he said, his voice trembling. "The stabilizer is online, running perfectly, but the rift keeps growing, like it's feeding off the energy itself." A sudden tremor rumbled through the lab, knocking Ilara off balance. Overhead, the fluorescent lights flickered, and one by one went dark, leaving only the rift to illuminate the cavernous chamber. As the humming sound deepened, Jonas whispered, barely audible, "What if we've created something alive?" Ilara froze, considering the implications. Could their bold experiment have birthed a sentient phenomenon? She had always believed science was their ally, their gateway to answers. But now, staring into the rift's mesmerizing swirl, it felt as if science had turned against them. She grabbed her datapad and initiated a scan, pushing her technology to its limits. The data streaming back made her heart drop. The rift pulsed with complex patterns, self-replicating sequences akin to brainwaves. Jonas was right. This wasn't just an accident of physics. It was evolving, and it was hungry. Suddenly, the rift flickered, and the lab around her was replaced by a vast, infinite void. Flashes of fragmented scenes unfolded before her. Cities she had never visited, worlds buried in alien landscapes, and a version of herself with an empty gaze, trapped in a swirling storm of static. "Ilara!" a voice boomed, distorted and mechanical yet eerily familiar. "You have opened the gate." The rift was speaking. Its every word reverberated through her bones. Before she could respond, Jonas's panicked shouts broke through the vision. She was back in the lab, her knuckles white as she gripped the data console. "The rift's expanding faster!" Jonas screamed. "We have less than 12 hours!" Her mind snapped into focus. She had one shot, a last-ditch protocol she never thought she'd need to use. It wasn't designed to merely stabilize the rift. It was a temporal reset, a failsafe that would collapse all local time structures and revert everything within 100 miles to its state 72 hours prior. No one would remember the activation, and the last 3 days would be erased, rewritten as if they never happened. But the cost was high. If she triggered the protocol while inside Kronos Labs, she wouldn't survive the reset. "Ilara, don't do this," Jonas said, catching on to her plan the moment she began initiating the sequence. "There is no other way," Ilara said. The rift was now a churning storm, tendrils of light leaping out and disintegrating equipment. She reached into her coat and pulled a dog-eared photograph of her daughter, Mira. At the age of 10, she had promised Mira she'd never leave her, no matter what. Mira had lost her father to cancer 3 years ago. Now she was about to lose her mother to time. Tears clouding her vision, Ilara pressed the activation button. The first tremors rocked the lab as the temporal reset initiated. Jonas screamed, his voice vanishing as light consumed everything. As the rift collapsed in on itself, Alara's final thought was not of fear, but of hope, that she had saved a world her daughter could still live in. Then there was nothing. The lab, the rift, the chaos, all wiped clean. 3 days earlier, Alara Voss entered Kronos Labs, unaware of the storm that awaited her.